My name is Jeremy Biemanzi, and I am a creative director with a company called Nomad. Nomad is an ad agency based in Kampala and Kigali. But today I'm here in the capacity of a representative of Sekyeru Media. And I want to speak to you about the value of building a brand identity. So I want you to imagine you go to a party, all right? You're dressed sharply. Let's imagine that you're a guy and you've put on your black tuxedo and you're looking very sharp, you're smelling so good, you're ready to have a great time. And then you go to this party and you've been invited, let's say, to the Sheraton Hotel, Renzori Ballroom. And this is a party where, you know, all the who is who in Kampala is at this party. Then while you're at the party, you notice in the corner, seated by herself, is a girl, a really beautiful girl in a red dress. So you get some courage, you know, and you say, you know what, let me walk up to this girl and just strike a conversation and just start to talk with her. So you walk up to the girl and then you say, hi, my name is Jeremy. What's yours? And you're looking at her with a smile, you know, a smile on your face, trying to be as warm and as friendly as you possibly can be. And then the girl turns up and looks at you and says, Ogambiechi. You know, first of all, immediately you're thrown back. You're like, okay, wait a minute. And then she looks at you, then she rolls her eyes, and then she looks down at her phone and maybe does something like, and then she continues back on her phone, okay? So maybe you insist and you say, I just wanted to say hi, I just wanted to get to know you. And then maybe she says, okay, she's a bit apprehensive, but she allows for the conversation to continue. And then as you begin to have a conversation, you realize that she doesn't speak much English. The little English she knows is broken. And because it's a party and it's very loud, you have to get really close to her to hear whatever she's saying. So you get as close as possible because there's music and, you know, the party's rocking and everybody's having a good time and you're here trying to make a conversation with this girl. When you put your ear close to her, to her mouth to try and hear what she's saying, gosh, she has bad breath. The party ends, and maybe at the end of the party you get her number and you go back home and your friends at home say, hey, Jeremy, how was the party? You know? And then you begin to have conversation and you tell them about the girl in a red dress. What are you going to say to them? Yeah. What are you going to say to them about the girl in a red dress? Yeah? So, the value of building a brand identity. Number one, what is a brand? Yeah, let's start from the basics. A brand is a type of product, all right, that is manufactured under a particular company, okay? That is what a brand is. So, if somebody walks up to you and says, what brand of car do you drive? Don't say, I drive a saloon or an estate, yeah? You say things like, I drive a Chikumi, I drive a Primo, I drive a Mercedes Benz, and you know what they say, when you go Mac, you don't go back. Or you say, I drive a Beamer. Yeah, those are brands of cars. All right. Now, when you get yourself a Chikumi and you sit in the Chikumi and you drive it for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you have experienced the brand, okay? Now let's assume, for example, that you buy yourself a Mercedes Benz and you've saved a lot of money and you bought a Mercedes Benz and you can't wait. You know, you sit in the Mercedes Benz and then after 1 week it dies. You know, then you go to the mechanic and they charge you so much. Then they tell you, you know what, this Mercedes Benz has what they like to call factory damage. You know, have you heard people say, you know, factory damage? So you send it back to the manufacturer. That is your experience of that brand, okay? Now, there is what they call brand identity, okay? I've defined what a brand is. I've defined brand experience, yeah? And I want to expound on that because there's also something called a visual identity, okay? The visual identity is the symbol or the symbols, a combination of color, a combination of fonts, a combination of shapes, and different things that form the brand or the visual identity of the brand. For example, if I use the example of cars, you know the three-pointed star is the symbol of a Mercedes-Benz. That's the logo. And that symbol is the foundation of the visual identity of that brand of cars. Same as Toyota, same as BMW, same as Subaru, they all have a logo that forms the foundation of their brand or their visual identity. Now, the brand identity, or what we like to call the corporate identity, yeah, is really the manner in which a corporation, a firm, or a business enterprise presents itself to the public, okay? That is how you choose to present yourself to the public. So you're creating an image to the public because you want them to perceive you a certain way, all right? So that's really what corporate identity or brand identity is all about. And so building a brand identity is a combination of many things. Another definition of a brand identity is it's made up of what a brand says. For example, what are your values? How do you communicate your product? And what do you say to the public, and how does it make them feel? For example, how do you interact with people? All right? For example, I'll give you this example. Taxi conductors have a certain brand identity attached to them. Everybody knows that when you sit in a taxi, don't cross the conductor. Why? Because over time, taxi conductors have built a certain identity or brand identity in our minds because of the way they behave, because of the way they treat people. So if you meet a nice one, you're shocked. Yeah? Because there's a way you expect them to behave. Don't cross that guy. And I mean, don't cross him. If you try to hold on to his vitano, you're in trouble. Yeah? So that's a brand identity of the taxi conductor, okay? So, brand identity is made up of values, how you communicate your product, and what you want people to feel when they interact with you or with your product. So my example of the girl in a red dress, she was a beautiful girl, very attractive. She had a very beautiful visual identity. But when you came to talk to her, she was rude, she couldn't communicate clearly, and she had bad breath. So the combination of the beautiful visual identity, the lack of communication, the lack of proper English, the bad breath, and the rudeness put together forms the brand identity of the girl in the red dress. All right? That is what it is. Now, Jeff Bezos says something interesting. He says, branding is what people say about you when you are not in the room. Okay? Branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So, in other words, your business has built a reputation for itself. And that reputation many times precedes you. So there's two things here. There is reputation and there is character. And most of the time, those two are different. Okay? So the reputation is what people think about you. The character is who you truly are. And so to win is to align character and reputation. If the character of your business and the reputation of your business is the same, you are winning the race of brand identity. Okay? So, let me give you a few examples. Every product leaves an impression in people's minds. Every product leaves an impression in people's minds. And I would like to give you an example of a product that you all know, and that product is Coca-Cola. All right? Coca-Cola. Now, you've all encountered Coca-Cola, I'm assuming. Now, when you close your eyes and I say Coca-Cola, what comes to your mind? Yeah? Give me some answers. What comes to your mind? you know. The things you think about when you say Coca-Cola, one, the first thing you will see, if you are very visual like myself, is the red color. That's the first thing you will see. The next thing you will see is the Coca-Cola font and the logo. Yeah, and that's a very old font. They've stuck to it. It's a dated font, but it's a unique identifier for Coca-Cola. So people are able to see it from a distance and recognize it. Yeah. The other thing that is part of the visual identity of Coca-Cola is the bottle, the shape of the bottle. If somebody gives you a bottle of Coca-Cola and the label is off, you can just see the bottle and say, this is Coke. So all those things are identifiers of the Coca-Cola. Yeah. Then when you drink it, it needs to taste a certain way. Coca-Cola has a certain secret recipe or a secret syrup that has defined the taste of Coca-Cola through the years. And this is a recipe they're not going to put on Facebook, okay, for anyone to copy or put on the internet. It's their secret recipe. It's their brand identity. It's a core part of their brand identity, all right? And then when you think of Coca-Cola, the things you think about are celebration, yeah? Celebration. It's a drink that has positioned itself as a celebration drink. So wherever there is a party, there's got to be Coke. Wherever there is food and a celebration, there's got to be Coke. Wherever there is happiness, you know, they even had a campaign some time back called Open Happiness. Coca-Cola has to be there. In the past, they've had campaigns like Always Coca-Cola, you know, and they have so many other things. Now, their vision is to put a Coca-Cola in the arm's reach of anyone in the world. That's their vision. Yeah, and I think they're doing really well with that. A brand identity is the face of your business. Identity is the face of your business. Okay, that is the first thing. Just like that girl in the red dress, you noticed her across the room because she was attractive. She was dressed to kill. She attracted you. You felt like, wow, I want to go and talk to that girl. I want to say hi. I want to get to know her. I want to get her number by the end of the evening so we can, you know, be friends. So your brand identity, which starts with your visual identity, is the face of your business. So your face needs to look nice. It needs to look friendly. It needs to look approachable so that people can dare approach, just like you were able to approach that girl. Okay? Number two, a brand identity also builds credibility and trust. Okay? Credibility and trust. And the way you build credibility and trust is through another C word called consistency. So a brand needs to be consistent through the years. If you're going to build your customer base, you need to be consistent. You build consistency by having a product that is consistent. When people know you are consistent, they can trust you. You don't have to be the best. McDonald's produces a burger, yeah? And the burger that they produce is not the best burger in the world. But the thing about McDonald's, it is a consistent burger. Every franchise seeks to produce a consistent experience. I'll give you an example of the one that you know here. For example, Cafe Java's and KFC. KFC chicken is not the best chicken in the world. As a matter of fact, if you went and ate chicken from Cafe Java's, for example, it might taste better. But the thing about KFC is their chicken is consistent. That's not to say the Java's one isn't. It's also consistent. But you know that you can walk into any KFC across the world and you will get the same chicken tasting the same way, packaged the same way, because they have built a brand image. Yeah? So you can trust them. So one of the reasons you need to build a brand identity is so that you can build credibility and trust. Yeah? Credibility and trust. So number one, brand identity is the face of your business. Number two, brand identity builds credibility and trust. Number three, advertising impressions. Advertising impressions. I want you to imagine, for example, a brand like MTN. Imagine if every time MTN put out an ad, they changed their color. One moment they are yellow, the next moment they are pink. Before you know it, they show up with blue. Then all of a sudden they become black. You'll be saying, but wait a minute, what's happening with MTN? They seem to be very moody nowadays. Every brand worth its salt has something called a brand identity system. And I've been in the business of advertising long enough to know what a brand identity system is, and we develop them for brands. So the color is consistent. It's a certain composition. I can tell you the MTN yellow is, if you use CMYK, it is cyan 0, magenta 20, yellow 100, black 0. I know because I had a privilege of working on that brand for several years. That is the MTN yellow. It does not change. The MTN yellow is different from the movement yellow, NRM yellow, but the yellow is consistent. Yeah, it's so consistent that there is a Pantone, what we call a Pantone color, that is specific to MTN. So when you go to print something for MTN, you need to present them with the right Pantone colors. So they punch it into the machine and they use the exact color. So that consistency builds trust. It helps with your advertising impressions. The other thing that helps with advertising impressions are fonts. So the kind of font you use. Even in a brand identity system, it goes down to colors, it goes down to fonts, it goes down to tone of voice. How do you communicate as a brand? You know, it comes down to details like the type of images. We even have a guide for the type of images that we can use on our advertising. You don't just put any image. Yeah, you don't just put any image. You put a specific kind of image which communicates a certain kind of mood. For example, you will never find a Coca-Cola ad with a man crying. You know why? Is a brand built on happiness and celebration. It is deliberate. Okay? Also, a brand identity helps propagate the company's mission. It helps propagate the company's mission. Okay? So, whenever you want to push your mission, you need to develop an identity around it. That's why a brand like, say, MTN says everywhere you go. That's why a brand like Nike says just do it. Okay? Because they are trying to build a certain consistency over time. And then also the fourth point is a brand identity helps you generate new customers and helps you delight the existing ones. Okay? So a brand identity, one with a face, one with trust, one with a mission, attracts the people who agree with what that brand has to offer. Okay? What that brand has to offer. And that is that's very, very, very important. So once people know that, one, they can trust your face, okay? They know your face, it looks good, they love it. That's the foundation of the brand, or starting by developing a visual identity. Then they know they can trust you. Then they know what your mission is. They get attracted and then they align with you. So for example, some of my favorite brands are Apple, for example. I love Apple because they produce very good products, but because they have also presented themselves as a creativity brand or a brand for creative people, you know? So they have campaigns that say made with Apple, campaigns like think different, you know, so everybody who is creative wants to associate with the brand of Apple. And even when they are creating products, they create products to help you with your creativity. Okay? Now, you can do a good ad or a good logo design on a PC and on a Mac. But the Mac guys have positioned themselves as a product or as a brand that pushes your creativity, so it's easier to associate with them. All right? Some of my other favorite brands, other than Apple, brands like Nike, brands like Manchester United is a brand that I love. I'm a Man U fan. Brands like local brands, some of the local brands in Uganda are brands like even Worship Harvest is a brand. You know, what other one can I think of? Local brands. Gorillos is a brand, you know. When you open a pack of Gorillos, the experience is the same. This topic is very wide, and there's a lot more we can talk about. But I'd like to bring it to a close right now and answer some of your questions. Branding and brand identity is very important. So you need to think very carefully about your brand identity.